mind-blowing story of the McLaren F1, the original hypercar. Now, when you think of hypercars, what comes to mind? Is it the current crop of screamers with more than 1,000 horsepower that are so technologically advanced they're almost otherworldly? Or do you think of the Le Mans prototypes from the 70s and 80s with their wild aerodynamics and even wilder liveries? But if we told you there was a car that bridged the gap between these two eras, would you believe us? And if you did, you wouldn't be wrong, because this is the original hypercar, the one that started it all, the McLaren F1. We'll tell you its story right after. So how did a British supercar from the 90s become the grandfather of hypercars? Well, let's start at the beginning. In the early 90s, Group C racing was all the rage. It was a formula created by the French that translated roughly to group sport in English. And rather than having strict production quotas like Group A or B, Group C had none. This meant that manufacturers were free to build purpose-built race cars without any road-going obligations. The downside was that while these cars were homologated for road use, that process was simply a formality, and most of them never saw a public road. Despite this, Group C was extremely popular with manufacturers like Mercedes, Peugeot, Toyota, and Nissan taking part. And one British manufacturer who wanted a slice of the pie was McLaren. Now, while they were new to prototype racing, McLaren wasn't exactly a newcomer to the world of performance cars. After dominating Formula One during the 80s with a string of iconic models like the MP44, McLaren decided to bring some of that F1 magic to the road. Enter the McLaren F1. Launched in 1992, the F1 was the first road car to feature a carbon fiber monocoque chassis. Carbon fiber was nothing new. In fact, it had been used extensively in the aerospace industry since the 50s. But in the auto industry, it was relatively new, having only seen limited use in the construction of racing and luxury vehicles. But McLaren wasn't just using carbon fiber because it was the latest trend. No, they had a much more down-to-earth reason. You see, while carbon fiber is significantly lighter than steel and aluminum, it's also incredibly strong. And McLaren was hoping to use this to their advantage. Their goal was simple: to build the fastest naturally aspirated production car in the world. And the way they planned to achieve that was by fitting an enormous 6.1-liter V12 engine from legendary Italian coach builder and motorcycle manufacturer MV Agusta. Not only was this engine massive, displacing over 30% more air than the mighty Ferrari F40, but it also produced nearly double the output, making it one of the most powerful engines ever built at the time. With such a large engine, you might think that the F1 would have been a gas guzzler. But thanks to its lightweight construction, the F1 was able to return decent fuel economy despite its massive engine. It was even claimed to be capable of getting over 20 miles per gallon in combined driving conditions, which was around the same as a Ford Mondeo of the day. All this power and relative efficiency resulted in a car that could hit 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds, making it quicker than the Ferrari F40, Lamborghini Diablo, and Porsche 959, all cars that cost less than half of the McLaren F1's sticker price of £500,000. But the F1 wasn't just quick in a straight line. It was also incredibly competent in corners thanks to its advanced aerodynamics and bespoke suspension setup. Even today, the F1 looks like it means business with its long front end and sharp nose, low-slung bodywork, and massive rear wing. But back in the 90s, it was even more extreme. In fact, the F1 originally came with an even bigger rear wing that would have made it look like a bat out of hell, but it was later downsized to make the car easier to use on a daily basis. Speaking of using the car every day, despite its track-ready performance, the F1 was actually designed to be a grand tourer. That meant that in addition to being fast and fun, it also had to be comfortable enough for long journeys. To achieve this, McLaren fitted the F1 with a 6-speed manual gearbox, a luxurious cabin with Connolly leather upholstery, and a massive boot big enough to fit a week's worth of luggage. It even came with electric windows and air conditioning, something you wouldn't normally associate with a hardcore performance car. Of course, given that there were no strict regulations for Group C racing, McLaren could afford to make the F1 road legal, opening up a whole new market for the brand. As if the combination of everyday usability, luxury appointments, and outright performance wasn't enough, the McLaren F1 also came with one feature that made it unlike anything else on the road: dihedral doors. Yes, the same butterfly doors that you can find on the newest hypercars today first made their debut on the McLaren F1. Now, these doors weren't just a design flourish. They were actually functional, allowing the driver and passenger to get in and out of the car more easily. Plus, they also helped to reduce the F1's overall weight by replacing heavy conventional doors with lighter, more efficient ones. Okay, so far, everything we've said about the McLaren F1 has been pretty positive. So let's take a moment to talk about its drawbacks. First off, the F1 was far from perfect from an everyday usability standpoint. While it may have featured creature comforts like air conditioning and electric windows, it also had a notoriously stiff clutch, making it difficult to get moving in traffic, and a ride that was best described as firm. But these were small complaints in an otherwise flawless package. But there was one thing that really let the F1 down, and that was its reliability. You see, the F1's engine was hand-built by MV Agusta, and that led to a lot of problems. In fact, many owners reported issues with their F1's engine, with some experiencing failures after just a few thousand miles. These reliability issues led to a bad reputation for the F1, which is unfortunate because it's one of the greatest supercars of all time. But the story doesn't end there. You see, while the road-going F1 was plagued by reliability issues, the race-ready version proved to be a force to be reckoned with. The F1 GTR, as it was called, made its debut at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1995, where it won its class and finished a respectable 5th overall. From there, the F1 GTR went on to win the 24 Hours of Spa and set a new outright lap record at the Nürburgring, firmly establishing itself as one of the most capable race cars of its era. By 1998, McLaren had sold 106 examples of the F1, all of which were built by hand at the company's factory in Woking, England, with the rarest and most sought-after model being the Longtail, which featured an extended rear end to improve its aerodynamic balance and handling characteristics. Today, an original McLaren F1 is worth over $1 million, and it continues to be one of the most important cars of its generation. You see, the McLaren F1 wasn't just a fast and beautiful machine, it was also incredibly innovative. Its carbon fiber monocoque chassis paved the way for modern supercars like the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG and the Audi R8, and its advanced aerodynamics helped to usher in a new era of efficiency and performance. But perhaps the F1's greatest legacy is the impact it had on the world of motorsports. The F1 GTR's success at Le Mans and other endurance races showed that a well-built prototype could hold its own against purpose-built race cars from established manufacturers like Mercedes and Nissan. And it paved the way for other up-and-coming manufacturers like Toyota and Audi to enter the World Endurance Championship, ultimately leading to the creation of the World Hypercar Championship we know today. If you're as passionate about iconic cars as I am, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the McLaren F1 in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my other videos on legendary cars. There's plenty more to explore. Thank you for watching.